Hello and happy Thursday, May the 20th. Here, Follow Up Boss office hours with Mr. Taylor Hack. How are you, man?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being on. I think you were having the trifecta or the quadfecta of all the things. We've done a recent interview. We've had you on before, but really excited to have you back.
I'm just a really engaged applicant. One day, if I'm really lucky, I'll work at Follow Up Boss. But until then, I continue to interview.
We're all working on that. We're all getting there. That's awesome. Taylor, I'm going to drop a link to our recent interview or somewhat recent interview so people can grab that and learn more about you. But can you tell us just a little bit about your story, how you got into the business, what you did before that, what your company looks like now, and then we'll dig into the sales funnel stuff.
Sure. I'm going to try to keep it short. So I've been on 100% commission since I was 18. I transitioned through the car industry, mortgages, and then into real estate. So I have a very solid pedigree background for this type of work. It went very well. As an individual agent, my record was 60 transactions in 6 months. I then built a team. We went to making over $1 million a year. And now I've left production as of last December. So I've kind of working on trying to really shorten a real estate career. Because I see people do this over 30 years and I'm going to try to do it in 10. So the way my team looks now is we have a total of 5 agents, but since I'm not currently representing clients, it would be 4 agents plus me. The agents on our team can all list and sell. I am really interested in their development and growth. I like being a performance coach. So when you take a look at my rookie last year, he almost had 40 transactions. I have the rookie of the year for my brokerage last year. I have a rookie of the year finalist for our entire real estate board the year before. We are looking for people that really want to drive and have the compassion and empathy to deliver the 5-star experiences where we want our clients to have. And that's one of the things that makes us notable now is that we have well over 300 verified reviews and we're considered the most trusted real estate team in our marketplace.
That's killer. Love that. Love that. Quick question, where you're from. You are Calgary, Alberta? I'm going to get it right one day.
The difference right now is that we've got a team in the playoffs. But if you're in Calgary and you want a playoff experience, the bandwagon's welcome it.
Nice. That's awesome. That's killer. Seriously, I know I get a little closer every time that I guess. So I'm just going to
yeah, and Tal mentioned Calgary is crushing it right now. Dominic said some trash about the Maple Leafs. I don't know why she's saying that or why he's saying that. I'm just kidding. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for greeting us from the comments. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Perfect. I know I say this every time. I'm going to write it down and get it right next time. But no, that's killer. And really,
for my American friends, I want you guys to think about the little Texas of Canada. Hardworking farm folk in the oil industry. That's kind of our deal.
I mean, you'd think I'd be able to remember that because I grew up in Texas area with the Oilers football team and the Oilers hockey, but I don't get out much. So we'll get there. The
first place that we hung out was Austin.
Yeah, that's right. Indeed. So yeah, we go way back. We have some great history, and I think we have some interesting similarities and some interesting differences. I think, for you very much on the sales side and the leading of people on the sales side is very much your strength. Not to say that you don't have some great operational strengths, because you certainly have a good balance. But speaking to the sales funnel, which is what people are here for, tell me a little. Well, first, let's do this. Let's define the sales funnel. I think sometimes so many people just talk about sales funnel, and I don't know if everybody fully understands what we mean. Can we just define sales funnel to start this?
Well, I used to have this thing that bothered me, and I saw it first when I was in the car industry, where somebody would look at the rest of the salespeople and be like, "Whose up is it?" And what they were referring to is the client walking in the door, and they would call them an up. And I was like, you know what? You're going to have a really tough time connecting with someone who's an up, right? Same thing like in our term of lead, right?
Right.
Some people see leads as having a definition of low value. Like they don't understand that when you got introduced to your like to your friend's aunt at a barbecue, that she is also under the classification of lead. So I think that that's one of the things that we should start out first, which is, what is a lead? And a lead is an opportunity that is yet to be sorted, in my opinion. A lead is a way to come in contact with someone. Maybe it's like naming a phone number on the internet, or maybe it's like, you should drop by my aunt's place on Sunday. That is a lead. Now, sorry, just 1 second here. I got to let my very small bulldog into the room.
Oh, we don't get to see it?
All the time is nap time for Hugo. And so he's got to come in and find a spot to cruise down, and then we can all listen to him snore.
I dig it. I actually want to reiterate, I probably should have done it while you were, that long break you just took. Lead equals opportunity. I think that was huge. I had to write that down when you said that. It's just a term that means it's some sort of opportunity. It doesn't, I think we get caught up in using that term too much as well. So
yeah, and like after that, the thing that they don't tend to define with leads is value. So like talking about like a 10 out of 10 lead or a 1 out of 10 lead, it really depends on your perspective. Like, have you ever met an agent that doesn't like to call the people they know?
What?
Met a whole bunch of them, right? And like when it comes to calling their sphere, because it would be talking to their sphere about business, they just don't like it, right? And so for them, a lead that is in their sphere would score low, because the way they gear up for it, what they bring to it, is probably not going to be what would lead them to success. Whereas that same person might see somebody that they met as an open house who's a stranger as being like a 7 out of 10, even if the buyer had the same criteria.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really smart way to look at it. I think reframing it, and that's why I had in my head to kind of tackle that question first. I think reframing the idea of the sales funnel is kind of the whole point, right? Because conceptually, the sales funnel is the idea that the top is big and you put a bunch of stuff in it, and then you narrow down to get to the people that you should actually be talking to. But I think
that's not how most people's look, in my opinion.
Right.
Like in my mind, so humans are set up for 150 people. Did you know that? Like that's how we're wired.
You know what? I haven't heard that number, but I think, with the whole Facebook 5,000 limit thing, and we had Jeff and Renee Funk on a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to a strategy where 150 leads, company leads, that's all they get at a time. They can give some up to get more, but that's all your brain can like. You can't focus on you can't have 5,000 friends. It's not a real thing.
So that's the thing that I think that Follow Up Boss does for us. So I want you to imagine that you were part of a tribe and you had a group of people, and all those people were slightly different to you, meaning that they meant different things. So then you can expand out a tribe to be about 150 people. And that's the person that does this in the community, and that's the person that does this in this community, and this is our village, right? You can actually see physical examples of this, meaning that there's communities like Hutterites, Mennonites, and Amish that when their colony reaches 150, they vote whether or not to split. It's weird that there's that many natural examples. But if you actually trace back the science, it comes from a philosopher named Dunbar. And Facebook actually works on Dunbar's number. So Dunbar measured the brain mass of primates and was able to determine their effective social size. And for humans, it just happens to be 150. Now take a look at how marketing works. So if you've got enough bus benches that you're getting people in that area driving past several times, maybe in their tribe, in their mind, they don't have anybody in the real estate position. Like maybe their aunt, like so many people's aunts, is no longer in the business. And and so now when they go to call somebody, the person that they get the most impressions from basically gets that spot in their mind, right? Like imagine that you had your face or your contact list from your phone, right? How many relationships can you actually manage? Meaning that like you can get involved in a way that would hold that position as a real estate agent. Now, I think if I had to be a full-fledged villager, maybe I can only hold 150. If I have to be like meaningful enough that I could babysit their kids, maybe I can only get 150. But what I use Follow Up Boss for is to hack Dunbar's number. So I can tell you my top performing agent outside of his recycle bin. So in our mind, we have a stage called recycle. And what it is when you only want your computer player to keep up with that lead. You no longer want to spend your human player time on it, because we put out enough content and send it out by email that we can actually carry some relevance. Yeah. And you're like, hey, I can't make good contact with these people. I want you to focus somewhere else.
Right.
And that's part of managing these relationships. So an agent on our team would probably manage somewhere between 200 to 400, just depending on their level. And we'll notice that somebody who gets towards that 400 level will need a lot of management in order to keep what we call as a basic lifetime referral system. So meaning that we give them monthly updates, we give them this, but are we actually talking to them at least 4 times a year? That's something that's on the teammate side. So how do we organize that in order to do it? Because I was saying that I don't really see it as a funnel, because you have to make it a funnel. In the beginning, just imagine that those people that you want to have relationships with, and I'm going to define them for you here. How many people around you, like when you take a look at your Facebook list, are going to hurt your feelings if they tell you they bought with someone else? So there's a great comedian, and he used to say, I don't have a girlfriend, but I do know a couple of women who wouldn't want to hear that. And it was Mitch Hedberg, and he's awesome. I was awesome. But anyway, the same thing here is how many people around you are going to buy or sell with someone else because you're not a credible agent in their mind, right? You haven't been keeping enough contact. Like imagine coming in contact even with your cousin, and 3 or 4 months is the frequency between when you guys talk. Well, it could be that they would not see you enough to know that you're a credible agent, and they're going to be like, oh, we didn't know, Lee, right? We just sold this place, bought another place, got a rental too. Weird. It's horrible. And for you, you're having an emotional train wreck right here.
Right.
What I'm going to say is that you might not be talking real estate with them, but does that mean they're not talking real estate? Who's there when it's not you?
Right.
So now we need to manage these relationships. We got a big crowd. We got all these people that would hurt our feelings if they ended up working with somebody else, because our job is to be visible. And we've got to make them into something. So Follow Up Boss is giving us the tool to turn this into a funnel. And the first thing would be that you have a big mass of unorganized people. Think of it as a big fuzzy circle, if you were looking at it from the top. And then one person at the edge of that crowd starts playing guitar, and all of a sudden it's an audience, right? It's a funnel. It is shaped like a funnel. So getting their attention is something that will start to turn this. So that's what we do. We try to show them things that they'd be interested in. Everybody has somewhere to live. So shelter's super popular. So talking to them about...
Can I quote you on that? Shelter is super popular. People like to live in places.
Totally. It's difficult to manage and surprisingly popular despite how difficult it is to manage. So when we talk to them about something that's going to get their attention, now we need to start organizing them into a line, right? Because imagine that everybody was going to work with you. Let's say that you could say something on the internet and everybody's like, yeah, you're my agent, right? Well, now if they all say that at the same time, you're screwed. There's no way you're going to be producing 5-star experiences out of this factory. So now you have to triage them. You have to organize them. And the best way I've found is to organize them through time. Time is the universal. In fact, any time somebody comes to you and says they plan to buy or sell a house, but they don't have a timeline, it's a dream, right? What you're looking for is the people that have changed that dream to a goal by adding a date. Right? Even if it's just as soon as they say it out loud, I want you to actually put some type of value on that. So if you can get someone to say verbally that they will give you a 5-star review, they're going to do it. I know that for a fact, almost all the time. So if you can get them to basically say, yeah, I would work with you, that's a value. If you get them to say a timeline, even though they may not stick to it exactly, that's kind of the gist of it. And I want you to know that once you effectively help them measure, they will start to manage and the timeline will diminish. So somebody tells you a year is going to move in 6 months if you help them. because the reason it's going to take them a year is that they don't have an expert. They're planning it on their own, right? So now we start to like reveal them, and let's start at the very tip here. Like if somebody, so the thing that excites most agents is when somebody says, yeah, right now, I want to buy a house right now, right? Like if agents, when they want to put out marketing, they're like, I want that spot. And it's like, right.
Forget
like,
all those other people.
Yeah. In any neighborhood, you'd be like, I want that house. And it's like, yeah, everybody wants that house so much, it's worth this. And the billionaires are the people that fight for, I want to buy right now, like Zillow and Remax and like all those other major companies. They want to be there, right? And so when we take a look at those clients have already told us like, hey, I'm ready to go, those would be what we call our D list. All right. So we're going to say the most important people to us are referrers. So they're going to be stage A in Follow Up Boss. We want to talk to them the most. We want to name that stage in a way that resonates with our team. So we're actually changing the name of that right now. In order to get into our A list now, you have to be nominated by one of our agents. It's not just a refer. What we call them is Hack & Co heroes. And they're going to have their own exclusive like touch point system and things like that, because we want to continue to deposit into those relationship equity accounts. And then our B list is not past clients, they're current clients. We just haven't come upon their frequency yet. But if they work with someone else, well, then they would still be our past client, right?
Right.
So that's like saying that, yeah, she's my ex-wife. Like it's not like that. So I want to identify those as my current clients. And then we're going to get into our C list. So we have 2 stages C list because we use Follow Up Boss to manage our business. It is like a structure inside of it. It's a performance part in our race. Right. And so our C list is going to be active buyers, and there's a second C list that's active sellers. So our admin team can identify which our active sellers are, so that they're showing process and everything is done right inside Follow Up Boss. And then our D list is what we call our hot prospects. So these, by definition, we call them our hot seats. And what we know is top performing agents, and I'm talking about like teammates that will have their own earnings in the range of like $250,000 a year. Those people are going to have 10 hot seats full all real estate season long. So like in the off season, you might see them kind of pop down a little bit. But when we talk about people that are going to be face to face with them this week, those 10 spots are going to be full almost all the time.
Right.
And then how long, like we start, as soon as we get to there, we start running into some challenges, right? So when we get to like those 10 hot seats filled, to be able to look outside of your next 10 appointments, that's the tip of what we're going to say is the trouble with Dunbar's number, is you're starting to manage this large community, but you can do that effectively when you're sharing it with a computer player, right? And so that's where Follow Up Boss is going to help me, because I know that I should be talking to those people inside every 3 days.
Right.
We can make a smart list that basically reveals anyone who we haven't talked to in the last 3 days without inundating that agent with tasks. Because when you talk about like managing those large number of contacts, the tasks are why we consider it to be a real like steep hill climb. But if instead we can reveal the opportunities using the smart list to filter, that's really where we kill it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to move out to the E list. And an E list is all those people who like really, if they're not going to get with us this week, they're normally saying it's not next week or the week after, it's like 30 days. So we're going to call those 30 to 90 days. So now those 30 to 90 days, folks, we should definitely be talking to once a week. And then the people out of that are like 90 to 180 days. Well, those people we're going to talk to about once a month. And so again, we're just using the smart list as filters to reveal where we should apply our work each week. Because what our workload is our output is called meaningful connections, meaning it can be by any communication type, phone, Facebook Messenger, email. But a meaningful connection means that there was connection back and forth, and meaningful is that we both remember it tomorrow. So if you want to tell me it's meaningful and you called them, I want to know, did they call you Lee or the agent after that phone call? Because if they didn't call you Lee, like, don't talk to me about meaningful. You got to get from the agent to you. And now you're talking with like lead generation. And then when it's your past clients, was there enough back and forth that they would like talk about something like, maybe the next day or mention it to their spouse? Now you're talking about like a communication level that we would call remarkable, right? Worth telling someone else about. And honestly, if we're professional communicators and we do thousands of contacts, should we not be practiced enough to have like a remarkable call more often than not? Or maybe it's a message back and forth?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I like that a lot. I think for a quick point of clarity for some people, and especially if you're newer to the system, you're talking very specifically about the stages in Follow Up Boss. So the categorization at the stage level of putting those people, but it's both a time-based and a relationship-based, really. I mean, as an oversimplification of it, if this person wants to talk to you and they have a timeline to transact, they should be connected with a little more frequently and probably in a less automated way. Is that a fair way to kind of summarize some of that part of the setup?
Well, I would agree. So like once somebody is working with us, then they're either active, they're a current client, or they're an advocate, right? They're referring to us. But outside of that, we have to look at it like a project. And a project, the timeline is going to be what's most important to us to keep it on schedule. So then it's the frequency of contact. And what we're looking at was to use this tool to do a job. So when someone comes to meet with us, they're uncategorized as a lead. In our initial conversations with them, we should be using our skills to determine their timeline as they see it. Once they give us a timeline, we know how often to keep in touch with them, because that's where follow-up will start to get weird. Meaning that if somebody's like a year away and you're trying to talk to them once a week, they're like, right? And they want to talk about different things when they're that far out. Like when they're top of funnel, what they're trying to do is solve problems. Sometimes they haven't even realized that real estate is the solution yet.
Right.
And then as they get down to the middle of the funnel, we're going to start to see them enter into almost like a graph of like ability and motivation. So if you look at a graph and you want it to kind of head up this way, then I think that to go this properly for you, I'd have to go the other way. But anyway, where you want the graph to go is up in motivation and forward in ability. So when a buyer makes their pre-approval, that's a milestone in their ability to make that purchase, right? And in order for them to go through what they perceive as being the discomfort of the mortgage process, they have to be really motivated. So what we're doing is we're just using a way to try to be empathetic and talk to people in ways that they would accept, to continually evaluate where they are in the process of getting ready to buy a property. And we want to add value to that wherever we can, and then a relationship will develop, right? Like most relationships with a cold web lead, they really do develop on the 5th call. Most agents never get past the 3rd call.
All right. And that might be a little generous, to be honest with you. Three might, I don't know, that's an average.
Okay, well, you know what? Average of the people that are still going to be paying attention to this stuff next year, because they're
people that are working.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean that's a really, really good point, and I've said that for a long time, but I think that's a better way of saying it. Is that like the stage should almost be triggering the messaging, around. Yeah, if they're a long-term nurture, you're not going to call them every week. And here's another thing I want to mention real quick too on stages, like, and you alluded to it, but I want to make it like uber clear. Doesn't matter what you call them. Doesn't matter what you call them. Like A, B, nurture, hot, like it in some level, it doesn't matter as long as it's defined to your company.
Yeah, it has to work for you and the people you work with.
Yeah.
So over time, what I learned is that leaders are like, part of leadership is being the path of least resistance. And so if you wanted to make signs, like let's say that I had to give everybody directions to where the fresh water is, right? And maybe there's an easy way and a hard way. Well, then in that case, I've got to accurately communicate that. I want everybody to use the same language. Like maybe we all like speak the same language or write in the same language. That's going to be the beginning of it. So if I want people to treat our past clients like they're valuable now and in the future, and I call them past clients, I might not be effectively communicating to my next generation of teammates that these people are going to go again, and there's a reason to maintain a relationship with them.
Right. Right.
So like maybe in that case, what I would really want to communicate to my next like generation of teammates is these people already trust us.
Yeah.
They're through.
Right, and that's a different conversation. That categorization creates a different conversation, a different frequency of follow-up, a different, there's a lot of really important, I wouldn't even call it nuance. I think it's nuance sometimes when we're all running too hard. But I don't think it's fair to call it nuance when it's the difference between someone transacting in 60 days and someone transacting in 2 years,
Right. But sometimes when people are putting things into a computer, they envision themselves talking to the computer, and the computer doesn't care what you call them. Right.
Right.
Whereas when me, like when I'm doing it, I understand my audience in Follow Up Boss are my teammates. So how we use Follow Up Boss is very different. Like if you're a member of a private group on Facebook, people tend to conduct themselves differently than in public groups because everybody's kind of in on it, right? They feel more safe, like among like-minded people. So that's the same thing here. Is I think that those elements and how you kind of set this up originally, because what you want Follow Up Boss to do is what it says it's going to do. Is this going to help you manage your relationships by staying relevant to those people through follow-up?
Yeah.
So that you continue to hold your position because the competition gets steep. Why companies like that are coming from the top down, like Redfin and Zillow, do not currently own the market is because even though they outcompete us at the bottom of the funnel when we want to buy a house now, like every single time, is because we developed a relationship way at the top of the funnel at somebody's barbecue before they ever got to the bottom.
Right.
Right. Like we're embedded in the community. We add value. So now how do we keep in touch with all those people around us? We basically have to make them into a big line. And that's what this really does by using your stages as timelines, is because then you can say, oh, these 90 to 180 people, my job when I'm calling them is to see when they're accelerating, right? By using milestones to be like, hey, you know what? Like we're just leaving the spring market. This is how it went. Like, how did you see any of the houses sell around you? And then they're like, yeah, maybe the fall. And then I'm like, okay, I know when to call you back. I know how to treat you, right? Looks like you just jumped my list. Now you're going into the 30 to 90 day. So when we're looking holistically, because my job is team support, I send the mass messages, or what we call the blast, right? So when somebody moves on our list from like that 90 to 180 day range to the 30 to 90 day, we're using Follow Up Boss's integration with BombBomb. So we send video mass messages about all kinds of stuff. So that the group at 90 to 180 days, I'm not sending them price changes. I'm not sending them when our clients change price changes on listings.
Right.
Because they're so far away that I don't think I can yank them in off that timeline. So I don't want to waste my contact with them by training them not to listen to me.
Yeah.
And so instead, once they get 30 to 90 days and a property changes price, will they possibly call us to go view it? Heck yeah. So now they're going to start getting different information. The frequency from our team, as well as the frequency from their agent, is going to increase so that we can minimize and defend against the thing that I don't think that people really see.
Right.
The thing that people can't see right now is web lead defense. They don't understand, as a web lead expert, I am directionally drilling into somebody else's database. Like all my clients are somebody else's past clients. And so the thing is that web leads are targeting even people that you know, and the way to defend against that is to have great follow-up systems. My clients know they're my clients because we talk to them. And they're talking real estate. When we're not there, they're talking to somebody else.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. We've got some questions I want to go ahead and tackle a little bit. And I'm debating if I want to hop into sharing my screen a little bit to show some tactical, because I know some people are asking really tactical questions like, how do you set this up? And there's also some other questions that are a little more around the deeper, conceptual stuff and even some lead type stuff. So I want to try to respect all of that.
Summaries of sections.
Say again.
I want to give some summaries of sections.
Cool.
So where most of the people I meet that are talking to me about things like Follow-Up Boss, what they seem to be really focused on is the web lead side of it. Like, how do I get leads to come in? And they're really focused on using things like conversion. All right. That is something that I think is distracting them from where the real money is. Like, when you meet strangers, you got to do a workload that's going to get you through know, like, and trust. Okay. Where meanwhile, there's already a group around you that trusts you. There's a group around them that likes you. And then there's a group outside of them that just doesn't know you enough to like you or trust you. So getting those people into Follow-Up Boss and starting to manage those relationships and treat them like they're as valuable as web leads by feeding them the thing that is the most valuable, your time. If you are feeding web leads your time, or you are feeding the people around you your time, I wonder what is going to give you a return first. I already know the answer because I train high-performing teammates. The first thing that they do, we kind of treat it like video games, is get to that like 100 blocks, like get to 100 database entries inside Follow-Up Boss with the people that would hurt your feelings if they bought with someone else.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about ways that's acceptable to you to talk to those people, right? Like a database entry is just 6 blocks: name, phone number, email, address, notes, and next task. So the minimum you can kind of have is 3 blocks. Like you have a name, notes, and next task. And my guess is next task should be getting the rest of your blocks.
Right.
So breaking it down like that and then saying, okay, everybody in my system potentially buys or sells a house. Now it's not just about web leads. Now it's not just about strangers. Imagine if your Facebook was just strangers, would you feel connected to that, right? Like as a professional speaker, my Facebook was kind of a lot of strangers. I had to unfollow some people and clean that stuff up because it really did feel like, it wasn't home anymore. And but the same thing is that if your CRM feels like that, are you going to spend time there? And if your CRM is the group of people that's most likely to give you a return on investment, they shouldn't feel like strangers.
Right.
So coming in there and understanding that and then taking it to the next step and saying, okay, well, how am I going to organize the people that we know? That's why we're talking about stages. And then what happens when I get a new one that comes in? Well, they come in as a lead and you do meaningful connections to follow up. And then you classify them along timeline because that's a universal, right? Time is something that affects us all. And that's going to help you start to move through. And then you take a look at all the repetitive things that you do. How often do you send this email? How often do you answer this question, right? Well, now you know what your email templates are going to look like. So one of the things that I saw replicating the most inside my business was our follow-up process for showings. So getting feedback on showings in my marketplace is rather difficult. So we call agents multiple times and we email our clients every time we call so they know the work rate. And so that meant that I had to design like 3 or 4 email templates. One when we call the first time and tell our client. Second when we call the second time and tell our client. Third time we call the third time. By the third one, it's getting like kind of ridiculous. Like we're thinking about showing up at their house and like stuff like this. Like we try to be facetious. And then the fourth one is like we weren't able to get a hold of them by the phone and we don't want them to report us. So we've sent an email and we'll let you know if that follows up, right? So now when I look in my Follow-Up Boss, I can see that those like that 4 email set, like combined, man, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of reps. It's just like, it's so good because that meant that I get the time saved every time that went out.
Yeah. Instead of the alternative is what? You looking at it, trying to figure out who to send that email to.
Yeah. So a lot of people are taking a look at their CRM and saying like, set it and forget it. I want somebody to tell me how to set it up. I want somebody else to do it. Then I want it to print money. And it's like, me too. If you figure that out, we're all going to
give me a call.
Yeah. But in the state of that, basically it's a way to organize your work. And these are the things that I'm suggesting because you want to make this build process something that you can commit to because it's never ending. Like you're going to do your initial build and then you're going to get a time savings from that basically pays for your next build. And it could be that you start by getting all the people in there so that you don't miss the deals that are going outside of where you're keeping regular contact. And then your next upgrade is going to be like, okay, now when people come in, they come in a system, so I know how to treat them. And then you can get into the situation where Follow Up Boss is doing mass emails. And now you can just start talking to your database once a month, right? And it could be a situation where you use some of the integrations like BombBomb, but I can tell you right now, if you guys took everything that Follow Up Boss does and gives it to any single user, me included, I'm never going to use it all. It's not like, that's not how it works. You got to fit these to you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. I mean, that's it. That's such a good way to look at it that I think not enough people are looking at it. And on top of that, similar to what you said, on top of that, when you do that work consistently, you've got the reporting to look at and go, oh, look, this email is working, or oh, the third touch is when they call us back, or the B stage takes 2 emails and 3 calls before they want to get property alerts, or whatever that is. But I really love that.
You can take it and show it to other people and talk to them about it like we're doing, right? Like we're talking about something that exists enough in my mind and in my workplace that I can bring it to you and we can say, hey, we're doing it this way. Now, I might bring it to you and then get your spin on it and say like, hey, listen, this is our initial web lead chase. Right. So when a web lead drops into our system, we do like first on demand into a pond.
Yeah.
And then this is what it looks like for the first 3 days. And then we're done.
Yeah.
Meaning that my team has either connected in a way that they're going to be like classifying them in stages, or they have my permission to recycle them because we want them out of their workspace. We bring in enough new leads. We know how to take care of the other ones. So see how I'm like turning it into a job. Like our job is check these cups. If there's marbles in them, keep them. If there's not, go over there. If you couldn't crack the cup, put it over there.
Right. Well, and I want to go a little further than that. It's going to take us into one of the questions I want to tackle now. And that is the idea that by having that scalable, replicable system that you can train people on, the consumer gets as good, I'll say it, there's probably some debate around this, as good an experience as if they were working with you. Because number one, you're out of production now. I'm out of production too. I know how hard it is to make that happen, but you absolutely cannot do it without a system to ensure the consumer experience is the one that you've built or the one that you want them to have.
Yeah, so this is like an entrepreneurial evolution. So in the beginning, a lot of people enter real estate and what they do is they become a solopreneur, meaning that they can make themselves a job.
Yeah. That's
almost everybody who does this. So like take a look at the average golfer and realize that like it's like 3% of them that ever shoot under 100. It's so little. Right. And so when you so then the group that can make like an entrepreneurship is when you can create more value than just you can consume. Yeah. Right. So now there's going to be other people in your business, but most entrepreneurs are like this pioneer. So they go and they design a client experience and then they sell it. Right. And they're the ones who designed a client experience that can be deliverable. Now, if it's with me or someone else, if I can effectively bring them to that, what we call a remarkable outcome, which is a 5-star experience. Yeah. Well, then in that case, the better I can do that through other people, the more scalable my business is. Yeah. Like I remember in Ray Dalio's book, Principles, he was talking about the multiplier of people. And when I take a look at top teammates from the past, using our systems to deliver the experience that I designed, he was able to do about 60 hours a week for 3 from me, like one-on-one coaching with a group with a professional coach, our team meeting. And I probably didn't see him outside of that. And that guy was putting up massive numbers, like over 50 transactions in 10 months. Yeah. So I love that. So let's tie that into Joyce's question. And I work with a ton of people that have the same type of thing too, because so she's the leader, it's her team, it's her name, it's her relationship. But how can a team member, like, I guess maybe 2 parts, partly the handoff, but also partly what's the balance of team lead or brand versus agent? Okay, so I think that my evolution is going to be to the bottom of the triangle. What I mean by that is that it was the CEO of Home Depot that basically showed that companies should be an inverted triangle. And what I mean by that is that the leaders at the bottom, they support the team supports the clients, and the clients are at the top. Okay. So you have to build the structure that allows you to basically carry that. And if you're spending time up here, you can't get down there. Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you look at it a different way, they say delegate and elevate. And that's the idea is that you have to have other people that are doing the time sensitive client facing work in order to get into the other positions where you can just support the ones that need help. Like today, I'm going on an appointment with one of my top teammates and one of my rookies, right?
Right.
The reason that we're going with a top teammate is because it's a really high quality listing opportunity and it's in deep competition.
Right.
So since we're profiling the people that are competing with us as individuals, to show up with two people immediately changes the game.
Right.
And so the other thing is like the first 10 deals that my teammates go through, I go through with them. I don't go with them to meet the clients, but when they're in negotiations, turn by turn, I deal with them. But I try never to be client facing in those situations because I make my teammate less credible.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what I need is I need the public to see that my team is so strong that nobody can even really see who the leader is.
Yeah.
Right. And what I want my team to think about is when they think leader, that should mean where help comes from. Right. So that's a little bit about like how we look at it. And then after that, we want to get everybody's fingerprints on everything. And what I mean by that is when we're designing these core experiences, we do them as a team because we're solving problems together. We're getting feedback from the people that have their hands closest to the work.
Right.
And then all these people will essentially like subscribe to it more. They're stakeholders in delivering this experience because it came from all of us.
That's so smart. That's so smart. I'm writing that down too. Why do I take so many notes when I talk to you?
I hate that.
It's good. I love it.
To anybody, Lee.
I love it. I think it's really, really great. So a couple of more tactical questions. Somebody asked about like using a pond in Follow Boss. Are you using ponds for your unresponsive or your lower, well, higher funnel people, I guess, that type of thing?
I use a pond, but probably in a different way than most. I use this as an indicator of how my team is viewing lead opportunity. So when you take a look at the business that we do, number one is repeat and referral. Number two is going to be two actually, like web leads have been creeping up. These numbers are fresh in my head because I'm just getting ready for us to take a day out of the market here next 2 weeks from now. But
Right.
anyway, I see these things change, but repeat referral clients is a big deal for us. Strategic alliances, reviews, people coming to us from reviews, and then web leads. So web leads is the principal use of web leads in our business is to help us train new agents by giving them many opportunities. So like the newest agent on my team, she's already had 2,000 phone calls, sent over 1,000 bombs. She's only been an agent for 3 weeks. She met 5 new clients last week. She has a listing and she's already sold the place. So
Nice.
this is a 3-week-old agent, but look how many reps she got because we're in the web lead business. Look how many opportunities she had to stand in front of a client before she ever did it for real, right? Yeah. And then look how many times she'll deliver a client experience before she's ever dealing with one of our orphans. Now, just to return to a previous question, and then I'm going to go back to this pond. So all of my past clients, we call orphans. Any teammates, past clients that no longer is with us, we call orphans. One of our big initiatives is to make sure all the orphans get adoptions. So we made an automation. So I took in the custom field section of Follow Up Boss, I made a place to make an introduction video. I shoot a bomb of me talking about my experience with those clients. Hey, introducing Donna and Jim. They got 2 kids. They've grown up now. We helped them move from over here to over there. One of the biggest things is Jim's a fly fisherman and he's going to show you how to do the hook thing. But just, go with it. Like we have this conversation with them like they're my uncle, right? And I send that by video. I put it in there and then I change their stage to the O stage. And the O stage is an orphan waiting for looking for adoption. And then my teammate that claims it has 48 hours because I send a video introducing the teammate. So my job is that I add the orphan and then I hit that button. Follow-up boss's automation makes a note inside of follow-up boss that shows like a link to the introduction and cues the tasks to tell the agent that they have until like, it's follow-up, right? It also gives me a task to send an introduction video that we use an email template for, but I make the bomb original so that, because I think the right amount of automation is that so no one notices. So I use some automation, but a lot of my videos will reference people's names and stuff because I can do them all one shot. I'm real fast. Like I think I've almost got 6,000 bombs in my library now. They called me. I'll be talking a lot about follow boss and bomb in the near future here, and they were saying that outside of their company, I'm notable for my number now. Like there's very few people inside the company that have the same amount of bomb shot that I do.
Wild. That doesn't surprise me though. That's
yeah. So anyway, cool. We do a way to help our teammates adopt those orphans. So imagine that from the client perspective. It's me saying like, hey, I know that we wanted to keep you up to date because you don't have big floating numbers over your house. You've probably seen the number of signs in your neighborhood quadruple over the last few weeks. And so a great agent from our team, Erida, she's going to reach out and give you a little neighborhood update so that we can keep you up to date on what's happening. I hope you guys are doing awesome. And Jim, fly fishing season, buddy. Talk to you soon. And then all of a sudden Erida comes up and she's like, hey, this is an overview of your neighborhood. And here's what's been going on recently. Not that you expect to sell, but if you need anything at all, I'm here. And then she follows that up with a phone call. And that's once they make that meaningful connection where they close the phone call, that is an adoption confirmed.
Nice.
So now to answer the other question around pawns. So I was saying that web leads are mainly for us to train new agents, and we do use a pawn. So when a web lead comes in, we want to encourage first to claim. We have inside salespeople, but only when they're coming through to becoming agents. So we run a slightly different style, but right now we're running all agents and we're looking for ISAs. So it comes in first to demand, and then if it doesn't, it drops into the pond. Our team has a schedule of who takes care of the pond. They normally run it about 3 days at once. That's so smart. That if nobody catches it, because our job is not to take web leads sometimes, our job is to not miss it. And so then they approach those and they try to crack them, and we talk about like how they did with the pond this week. What I notice is when the pond gets like less attention or people are doing like kind of shorter than our web lead experience chase, is that basically they're feeling some overwhelm.
Right.
So as soon as I start to notice those things, I take it into one-on-one coaching and I try to find out, why that is.
Yeah.
And then if I get like a consensus, meaning I'm talking to all my teammates and maybe they have enough attention, or maybe there's something to do with the quality of web leads or what we're doing is not working as effectively, so they're starting to shy away from them. That's the indicator to make changes. It's sometimes of year, it means that we dial back our web lead generation.
Right.
Sometimes of year that changes, that requires us to bring that web lead experience into our meeting and say, hey, let's A/B test this. What do you guys want to try? What are people talking about right now?
That's great. And then somebody else asked, and I want to touch on this really quickly. I don't want to go too deep into this because this is literally an afternoon length webinar session for this question, but just asked about automation. So let's just stay high level. Like, what are you using any automations?
Just basic ones. So for me, like perfect is everything you need and nothing more.
Yeah.
So I remember I met with an IT expert who's a good friend of mine. And we sat down and I took him through my client experience from the time we meet somebody to the end. And he called me AppNato. He said the way that I had webbed together everything was just like this, because I've been a Follow Up Boss user for a long time, and I remember like I would get together and I would actually meet with Dan at conferences and just ask him about things. I would normally be around everybody, including like you, as things progressed and so on, because I really like to get close to the companies that we work with as tools, because I might be able to help them the same way I help my own business, and then we get cool stuff. And like you guys, just huge upgrade. Relationships and Follow Up Boss. Just want to give you the high five. Let's go full crowd.
Nice.
Relationships, man, you guys are hearing us. I love how you listen. So this is working out really well. And that's one of the key elements, is taking a look at what they're releasing and then saying, okay, not what do I want, but what do I need? It's like going to a grocery store with a shopping list or going to a grocery store without a shopping list. Like if you go to a grocery store without a shopping list and you haven't eaten recently, it's going to be a far different outcome. So instead saying like, hey, where does my situation need to improve? And that's why I was saying that my first approach would be like, where's your high reps? Where's your high reps that give rubs, right? Like, oh, I got to do this again. Oh, this takes up this much time on my week, right?
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see a place for an automation. And then you take a look at it and say, okay, how much can my computer player hang on this, right? Like to go too far, if all of my bombs were canned bombs, I'm going to train my audience not to listen to me.
Right.
It's just like, that's like, we are all sensitive to that.
That was one of the big things I actually wrote down in my notes, is you're training people not to listen to you. If you're spamming them, you're literally teaching them, oh, there's that guy again. Like, I don't want to. And then ultimately it's an unsubscribe and then they're out. So.
Yeah, and you can actually do these little lifts. Like there's a whole bunch of history on this stuff. But if you take a look at some people from like Dan Pink talking about to sell as human, there's ways to just give, like, imagine that you gave somebody a mail out, but imagine if that mail out had a little bit of chocolate with it. Like it's a different outcome. Now imagine every time somebody saw your face, they got a little bit of chocolate. Are you not training them? Is this not the same as Pavlov's bell?
Right.
Right. That's the kind of idea. So anytime anyone gets anything from me, what I'm looking for is the minimum positive. And in my mind, it kind of looks like this. Huh. Right? Like it's just enough to be like, I raised their eyebrows, right?
Right. They stopped on the way to the trash can to put the thing in it.
I'm still going to recycle.
Right.
Right. But I want that moment on the way there where you're like, hey, oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy, the chocolate guy.
Sure.
We're thinking we should give him a call. You're totally right. I mean, it's literally that simple, and we're all like clamoring over like what magical automation is going to make this person want to talk to me. You know, it's like
yeah.
Good,
So if you
good news and bad news, none of them.
Like if you looked at a loop that we're probably going to add automation to, it's our review loop. So this is something that I was just speaking on with a major real estate team in New York this morning. I come in to some of these people that are starting these initiatives, and basically we make well over $100,000 each year by how we're positioned with reviews. Yeah. This is something that I speak on regularly. So how it works is our entire core process is inside Follow Up Boss. We're following off things to make sure it's consistent for everybody. We attend the climax of the client's experience when they finish removing conditions, like right when they know they got it. That's like the part they celebrate. We want to be in attendance at that moment. And that's where we apply value. So like we deliver moving boxes and they see the agent, and like in today's markets, it's like fresh from battle, right? Still in a suit. Now this guy's lugging boxes up to my front door. They just made moving real in my life by showing up here with boxes.
Yeah.
And then at that moment, we ask for feedback first. If you don't ask for feedback before you get a review, you will get review and a feedback. And that's the fastest way to a 4-star review. Right. You want to get a few of those though, because nobody trusts a 5.
That's right. 4.8, right? That's the number.
Yeah.
I saw that graphic. I know what's going on. That's awesome. So, I love that.
Then when so we ask for a review and we send an email template. Okay. So as soon as they give us the verbal commitment in the moment, we get in the car and right from the mobile, we send the email template of where they can review us. We get over 100% reviews. So we get more reviews than we sell houses. And so they get the opportunity right after they made the verbal commitment. And then when we get the review confirmation, We actually send the clients, we use send out cards and we send them brownies.
Nice.
And then they get brownies that say it was sweet of you to rate us online. And then some of those people will come back and thank us. And they normally do it by email.
Right.
So then I send them a bomb with another place to review us. And it just says, oh, you like that? Want to go again?
Of course.
And like again, we're just using, like, we're trying to make it fun. And if you can make food show up at somebody's house, it's fun.
Yeah, no, that's so smart. I've never even thought about the double review after the fact. Like, that's smart. I get the people send out like you could review us on Google or YouTube or what, here's a list of places, but I love the follow-up review.
So that's where you might want an automation, but I would use automations. Like, some people are trying to write paragraphs in automations and I'm trying to write sentences. Okay.
You know what? I mean, let's be real. If this is a person who transacted with you, let's not try to automate their experience. Like, this is a person that just gave you a check for $12,000 or $20,000. Let's send them you can use a template integration, but let's say good afternoon or send them a bomb.
But like, making it personal and actually being personal, that's the thing, right? Like, some of my bombs are ridiculous. Like, they like be friendly, like be what it is to be in person with them. And then once you've already had the check and stuff, like the way you talk to them on video is something they will appreciate. Because I have a question for you. How many videos have you been sent this week? Just to you.
Good question. Probably 2. And I'm in the business of people who do this. So
you work in this industry with people like me that have like notable bomb scores, and you got 2.
Right.
Is that not a low competition space for a high value contact?
No, it totally is. In fact, to be totally honest with you, I would be able to bet I could outline, and you've probably sent me 5 or 6 bombs. I bet I could list at least the highlights of what they say years later.
So when we say meaningful connection, I'm hitting on that meaningful side in ways that a voicemail or an email cannot.
Yeah.
But I am doing this where you get access to that at your convenience.
Right.
Now, here's one of the biggest weapons that we have in delivering our client experience. This is something that almost nobody can see, even though, and one of the biggest wins when it comes to follow-up boss with their relationships. The biggest problem in real estate is that you're communicating with half of the decision-making party through their relationship, because you're only talking to one of them. So if I talk to Lee, and then Lee is the one taking back my suggestion for our listing price change to his wife, well, then his wife is experiencing Lee telling her it's time for a price change. Right. And so what we're able to do is give the original version with full tone and inflection using video, send it to both parties so that they can get it at their convenience, talk together after getting the original message, and then come back to us.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I'm talking about when I say use your computer player to make you a better human. Right? Like, you be more human and let your computer be more computer. And that's what automations, that's what
man, that's a great way to say it. I want to just reiterate. I want to reiterate 2 things, and I want to respect time. I want to hit these questions really quick, but I want to respect people's time, yours included. 2 quick things I want to throw out. Number 1, Taylor, would you be willing to share potentially, and we could do it in the follow-up in the Facebook group, any people are asking about like stage specifics, or somebody asked about the email review language, any of that you're willing to share or whatnot, if maybe after the fact you could, anything you're willing to share or drop a bomb, whatever, into the group.
Yeah, so maybe what we'll do is we'll just put like a picture up, and then people can put their questions on it. And then if they give me patience to come to them and like get to them, I will kind of hit it one at a time. But I want you guys to know that most of my stuff is not like, most of my stuff is the stuff that works. It's not the stuff that's like flashy and big.
Yeah.
Right? Like I like when you're talking about our review language, because we've already got a verbal commitment from the client, you're talking about 2 sentences and like a link.
Well, right? And to that point, I was going to say, I know people want tactics. I know people want like, just give me the email. But by the same token, the whole point is that the email is authentically you and your business. And it comes at the end of a series of communications that it's also relevant to. So as much as it would be great to have this like this is how I get people to review me. You're getting people to review you from the time that they're a lead, to use that terrible word, from the time that they're a lead until they transact with you and then come back and do it all over.
Totally. And the thing that I want people to remember is that they don't understand how personal that you need to be. And what I mean by that is not just to your clients, but even to yourself. So like, imagine if you and I switch phones right now, right? And like we had to navigate the world for the next 3 days using each other's phones. Well, in that case, like where you put your buttons is different than me, right? Like for me, when I take a look at like where I'm most easiest to reach with my right hand, all my high value buttons are bottom right so that they're really fast, right? And a lot of people are like, no, I read the world top left. So all my buttons are top left. And then I try to see them operate their phone with one hand and they look like,
right. You might like my phone. I actually took the phone out of the dock. It was pretty lovely.
Yeah. So that's and that's the other thing is that people would notice that I don't have any notifications.
Right. Same here.
Like,
too much. We don't need all this.
Check when I check, man. So
we're going to do a whole webinar on that because I'm all about that too. I love that. Let's try to rapid fire these questions.
Let's go.
People are approved. Is that a different stage? Is that a tag? Like, what do you do when they're approved for a mortgage? What changes in your system?
Well, normally that is like a milestone that changes their timeline because they're now within like an approval stage. So I'm really surprised if we see anybody with an approval that's not in a hot seat, but we would see that as an ability milestone. So it wouldn't be change in our system. That would be something that like our humans know that like, okay, this person's in a hot seat. Like, why aren't they looking at a house once they have a pre-approval in their hand?
Right. Well, and I do want to acknowledge this briefly and not get into this detail either, but it's a little different in the States and in Canada as far as both pre-approval and getting your license. And there's some things that are just as a quick FYI for some people that don't know that.
A lot of things that are totally different, but basically the people end up in the houses very similar.
Yeah.
And in the mix, they normally want to talk to a person from the mortgage first, and then they also want to get that confirmed before before it's kind of like what we all use the same language in weird ways, right?
Right.
I talk to people.
To be fair, in the States, some people get a pre-approval letter off an online thing, and then they want to see a house, and it's a little different than a deeper, what we would probably more so call a pre-qualification in the States. So and that may even vary. Some of those things vary a little by state.
Yeah. So those are the things that like I really like because that's part of like checking the availability or the opportunity as well as their ability. Like, if they're motivated, but are they pre-approved or pre-qualified?
Yeah.
So then learning the keyword questions like, hey, did you send them income verification?
Right.
You're telling me that you got a pre-approval and they haven't seen how much money you make from someone else besides your, then no, they don't lend money that way.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Like, so that's how my team would be trained is to say like, oh, how'd the meeting at the bank go? Like that's what we ask if you're pre-approved. It's so
I filled out a form online and put down how much money I made, how much money I think I made.
And then they'd be like, oh, we didn't have the bank. We went online. And be like, oh, was it good for you? Did they give you lots of information? And then like, we would just talk to them about it because we're going to end up homing them with a lender. Right. Like we're not saying, are you pre-approved, stay or go? We're saying, hey, Lee, from wherever we found you to a 5-star experience, why don't you tell me a little bit about your situation?
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. All right, cool. Unresponsive. What do you do about unresponsive people? In this particular case, they're even asking, they read the emails, but aren't engaging with you yet.
Oh yeah. There's like degrees of communication.
Yeah.
So what we love about Follow Up Boss is you can see opens. Now it's a little confusing because sometimes it's a computer program that opens. Right? Not the actual person. Like maybe they use like probably like an archaic system. Like I'm not going to say any.
I was saying no names. Don't do it.
No names. But anyway, and it might open there. So the thing I'm trying to determine at that point is, do I have a one-way conversation? Meaning I'm talking to you and you're listening to me, but you're just not responding. I would still value that. Right?
I want to hop in there. When I was doing this more actively with the team, that happened all the time. Get the response. Thanks for all your emails. I've been so busy. I'm ready to talk about, just because they're not responding. I think we take it too personally that they're not responding sometimes.
Well, that's because we can't I think that the reason we take it in personally is because we don't understand when we're on social media that we're watching all the time and we're engaging a very small part of the time.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to somebody about buying a house, if they're not ready to buy a house, they're not ready to talk to you if that's the only thing you're talking about.
Right.
Right? Like do you call your doctor and talk about the weather? It doesn't work like that. So the idea is that if you haven't got into that position where you're in that know and like process yet, then you have to have somewhat of a stranger courtesy. And the idea would be is to continually being present. So, so when we see somebody who's having a one-sided conversation, what we're trying to close is a response, right?
Yeah.
So we might just put them in recycle, which means that they're going to get our blast, meaning that, if they're in the recycle stage, they're going to get everything we send because we're trying to get a response.
Yeah.
So they're going to get monthly statistics. They're going to get all of our new listings. They're going to get coming soon marketing. They're going to get really our recycle bin is where we have the last chance of saving them from 3-star experiences with someone else.
Right.
So we are throwing the kitchen sink at them, but only in mostly computer automated conversation. So they're getting everything they get there is canned. Now, if they touch anything, now Follow Up Boss comes alive. We get notifications that somebody's like, hey, they just engaged your website. This is what they looked at. Now our teammate, even from the recycle bin, people come out of the recycle bin all the time and they come exactly like you described. Man, I saw your emails. Thanks so much for taking care of me. You've been giving us all this value, and you're a jerk. You're a ghost.
Right. No, but I think we get too personal about it. We're like, you never wanted to talk to me until now. Like, well, duh. What are we going to talk about?
Totally.
Love it. All right, cool. What stage would you put another agent in your database under? And I think this is a 2-part question. I don't think it's an agent and a family member. So what stage do you put an agent in?
Yeah, I have a few different agent stages. So for me, I'm looking for teammates. So I might have
that's more recruiting though, right? That's not.
Yeah. So I might have local agents, but the main thing is I want the agents out of my marketing.
Right.
Right. So I don't want any teammates spending time with agents.
Yeah.
Outside of developing referral relationships. So I want to put them in a place where I can manage that relationship. So I'm going to put them in there. And then if I design an experience for them, so maybe the agents that are in the areas that trade with me most, and this is going to be big business, okay?
Yeah.
Relocation, the world is about to shift as it powers back on, and they're going to need people in different places than they needed them before COVID, right?
Yeah.
So when you take a look at standing on all those migratory routes, getting relationships in other places and managing them is going to be key. So if you were to develop content that you could send out to them to talk about what it was like to move into your market right now and what it's like for people that are leaving, then that would be something that you would probably send to them, but you would keep them in their own stage. So for me, I've got local agents. I've also got top team leaders. So I might manage a private community for top teams. And so in there, if people are coming in there, then they're going to be in a different section because I'm going to give them different content.
Right. Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. And then second part of that, just what about a friend or family member that hasn't used you yet?
So this is a big thing for my teammates. So every time I talk to somebody about putting people into Follow Up Boss when they're new to us, they're like, what do you mean? Right? What do you say? No, I'm not selling you my friends.
Right.
And it's I'm not, listen, you take these people with you when you go. I don't want to compete with your relationships. I want to energize them.
Yeah.
And then I have the conversation, would it hurt your feelings if these people bought with someone else?
Right.
If you're not going to participate in their real estate conversations, then who is?
Right.
And so we start talking about that. And most of the time we put them in a friends and family stage because we don't want them in the blast radius.
Yeah.
Meaning that we cab, so we create, advertise, and blast. And those blasts are going to go out to everybody in the lead channels, but we want our team to talk to those people. So, each one of our teammates has a friends and family stage. When we do our monthly updates, they're done on video by Zoom with the whole team.
Yeah.
And then we send them out to everybody in those kind of A to H stages.
Right.
And then we ask our teammates if they would please send them with a bomb introduction from themselves to their friends and family and sphere.
Nice.
So we're getting them to give the introduction to it. And we also know that this helps them be more credible
Yeah.
So we look at it a little bit different there, but you can see how we're using follow-up boss to categorize people in ways that will protect them from treating them in ways that we didn't intend.
Yeah. And I think I love the use of stage for that. Like I'm so into keeping stages simple and concise and all that. But like we talked about earlier, driving the stage, driving the message is so important. And so in this case, I love having the friends and family stage because it basically says, don't put these people on a friggin' drip. Like these are your people, you know? So that's killer. Awesome. And then building of the action plan and automation. Do you design it from scratch or do you get help? I'm a solo agent and want to move up to the next level, but yeah, don't have like, how the heck can I do all that and be an agent?
Yep. So there's people that do this differently. Like
Yeah.
I definitely have people that call me as a consultant to help me with building their core processes and things like that. Because honestly, like Follow Up Boss is the tool, but a lot of the time it's the knowledge of dealing with people over and over again. So there are people out there that do that. And then in addition, there's also things that you just need to do once. It looks like a big job, but that's if you are approaching it like set it and forget it. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're saying I'm an individual agent, like I want you to know that like in my own experience, before I ever involved another teammate, like I had already sold, I don't know, like 100 and almost 200 houses.
Yeah.
So that meant that like the big thing is like if you're going to upgrade to a team, you have to learn how to build this stuff because you're going to have to maintain it.
Yeah.
So I think that there's times where you can use a service, there's times where you can use a consultant, and there's also times when you can just do it yourself, like learn it and do it. And you got to decide where your mix is on this. I really like talking to the people at Follow Up Boss, and like Jennifer hates her and I. She's a buddy now. We chat, but we're always talking about like what they brought new. And then I'm saying, okay, I run a team, so I can only implement at this speed, and that's what I really want to drive home. It's like we're making major changes at like a 90-day change. Like the last time that Follow Up Boss made us move was relationships. Relationships were dropped in the middle of a quarter and we didn't care. We were like, you guys did this to make it so easy for us to basically take those two numbers and see which one was in a relationship. We're just like, let's do this now. But most major changes, we're actually taking a look at implementing them over a quarter.
I'm so glad you said that. I want to keep this short, but I have so many passions around all of this too. I think number one, to the point of how does one do all this? I think you have to be really important about self-assessing and figure out where you want to go. If you're trying to build a team, putting your time into setting this up right is awesome. If your focus is to stay a solo agent or maybe bring on a partner or like a showing assistant, maybe don't spend hours learning Follow Boss. That's maybe when you leverage it out a little bit. So, you got to figure out what you're trying to do.
I would make a custom suit for you if you're a solo agent. Like I would want like Follow Up Boss. Like it would be like when our agents break 100, we go like prestige mode. I like video games. And so so in that case, we're going to build them a much more custom fit that would feel like an individual agent. Right. So so once we get to that level, the stuff that comes out, like even the email templates will make it look like it's that agent plus the team.
Yeah.
Not like they're a member of the team. Right.
Yeah.
And then we can say, okay, we want some initial responders. So we're going to take like Kim from our team and we're going to take her out for a day with a photographer or a videographer. And we're going to try to get her in so many different situations, like morning in her car, afternoon outside, like if we can get her in different weather, it will even be better. And then she can have something that she sends quick when somebody tries to contact her that she needs to push off that is canned, but looks real. So to say like her getting out of her car in the morning and being like, hey, really appreciate that you contacted. I got some time later this afternoon. Is that a good time to reach back? And is this right number? And just like a personal like shot like that is what we look at when we're talking about like that solo build. Then when we talk about a team build, you really have to take a look at like not quite one size fits all, but one size fits us. And that's a harsh reality as a team leader because you get into this situation that, I don't know what you guys like for language around here, but fit in or F off is basically, we look at it like one size fits us. Like we all agree that we will be systemized to the point where we can function well as a team because that's our strength.
Right.
So like when we have one agent that's like, oh, I don't really like to do it this way. we either have to agree on all of us finding a way that we can work together, or that agent has to find a better fit somewhere else.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I was trying to type a quick answer to this pawns question because it's a little not specific necessarily, but somebody's asking about nurture leads going into the pond and the schedule. I was trying to drop a link in the there's a link in the chat as well. It's kind of a specific question.
Yeah. So basically, when you take a look at pawns, the things that I've learned over time from other people that use pawns really well is essentially that one of your team members may not have a high closing rate for that type of lead. And in a pond, someone else might pick it up that has a better potential or likes that type of lead more. But it would be really dependent on great note taking from the first person to lead the second person there. So the main thing that I see as a pond is like, what happens when leads come in overnight? Who do they get assigned to? Like, we like first to response, but we have to have somebody to kind of sweep up and make those contacts first in. So having somebody assigned to the pond solves that problem. And then if somebody doesn't want to lead and they want to toss it into the pond, we already got somebody who's hungry around here.
Yeah.
And if we didn't, like if I start to see things, then I start to ask questions in coaching, like I mentioned, and then we're going to dial it down because you just don't want to overfeed the cats, right?
Yeah.
Like they have to hunt and they have to see a value in the lead. And if you're telling them that the message here is leads are saying that you shouldn't miss any, not that you can take some at your convenience, that's like, you have to live by that message on both sides. You can't let them leave around scraps.
Totally. No, I love that. And let's wrap with this question. Somebody asked anonymously, I'm not sure why, this is not like a super personal question or anything. Just asking about all the different sources and distributing those leads to team members. So maybe this kind of takes us off the pond thing. And then for those of you, if you have questions or notes in the chat that we didn't get to or didn't see, we'll start that Facebook group thread. So be sure you're in the Follow Up Boss Facebook group. I'll drop a link to that. But how do you distribute the new leads, I think is the question, Taylor.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that the new leads are like super desirable, but for us, it's actually our repeat clients that are super desirable. Like if you talk to one of our teammates on our team, they would tell you every day that they would rather serve an orphan than someone from the outside.
Yeah.
So when we take a look at like lead routing, basically all of our team is trained to list and to help purchase. Like my new teammate that's 3 weeks in, she's going on a listing appointment and we got her back. And that's the part of the deal here is that, we see ourselves like a wolf pack. Everybody looks the same. And so when we do that lead routing, it basically comes in first to claim and then goes to a pond as far as that goes. And then different lead sources are going to get treated different ways. So if it's coming in from interacting with property, well, then we're going to try to keep the conversation on that. You guys were talking about like one-sided conversations where they're opening. Well, the way to determine if it's a human is get them to click stuff.
Yeah.
So don't send them a bunch of houses, send them one. Like, hey, or what's really powerful? Use that bomb integration. Do a screen share video and talk them through a listing asking questions. Like just look at the picture of a kitchen and be like, your picture in picture on the video. And you're like, hey, this is really open concept. And I was wondering, is this kind of your jam?
Yeah.
Or what don't you like about this?
That's brilliant.
Talking someone through a listing as an agent by video, like so then what you're going to see in Follow Up Boss is open, click, click. And it'll be one click for the video and one click for the link to the property, because now they're going to want to look at all the other details. And I keep tying them into my website that's integrated with Follow Up Boss so that we can keep engaging, right?
Yeah.
Then essentially we bring them in and turn them into appointments. So that's and then when we set up new lead flows, we always have to decide not so much who they're going to, but how we're going to treat them. So right now we're doing coming soon that comes through a form. So people can choose like one way or the other. Like, I'm interested in this. I want to book an opening day showing, or this is my jam. And then we ask them, hey, can you tell us, like, we might have walked through the house you love right now this week and it's not on the market yet. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And now that's coming in through Zap into our Follow Up Boss. And like but like as a team leader, I'm looking at my team and I'm waiting for their pupils to dilate, right? Like when you see something that comes in lead source, coming soon, want to book day 0.
Right.
Like, does that as an agent make you like all of a sudden be like, oh,
I hope so.
yeah, that's what we're talking about? Because I can see how my team responds to different things. So I'm also trying to change it up a little bit. Like I learned something. I learn a lot of things from dogs. I've got a little bulldog here over my
I know
shoulder.
he's super cute. Just chilling.
Yeah, that's Hugo. But one of the things is you can't run sled dogs down the same track. You got to have like 5 or 6 different tracks because they start acting up. If you can't, they want to explore, right?
They get
And
bored.
same thing with my team is that if I just set it and forget it, I'm not taking care of those. Like those teammates should be treated like racehorses.
Yeah.
And so I want them to see Follow Up Boss as this living place. I want them to live in Follow Up Boss because that's where our clients live. And that's the biggest thing that I think everybody should take out of here is make Follow Up Boss the place you live. It will do huge things for your business.
That's so good. I love that. I really appreciate you saying that and appreciate your time as always. And to the massive chunk of people that are still on, thanks for staying after and answering great questions. You guys we'll drop a thread in the Facebook group. So if you guys have questions for Taylor or want to connect with him there, we'll be sure to do that.
Places to find me. So like Taylor the Hack on Instagram. I am on Clubhouse all the time. I do a Monday night room with one of the largest brokers in the world. He has 1,700 agents. I host a private community for top teams, and my marketing is as far as I can send it. So I love being in real estate because you can Google your friends. I'm a pretty friendly guy. If you guys want to reach out, not a problem at all. And I always like spending time with you, Lee. Like I have to say that the way that your type of curious, I could talk to you forever because you have great questions.
Well, we will definitely have you back. We'll do this all over again. There's a million topics we could cover. So let's do that too. If you guys have topics you want us to cover with Taylor, drop those in the Facebook group as well, and we'll make it happen.
It looks like I'm going to get to hang out with Lee and also get to hang out with Follow Up Boss a lot more. We're going to be talking a lot more about Bomb as the weeks come through here. And to give you an idea, like we've shot, the average one of my teammates has over 1,000 videos. So if you guys are looking for teams to progress into that next level of communication, this is where we're going to take the conversation. And I really appreciate you kind of pioneering the way, Lee. Follow Up Boss has done an amazing job of getting you as an ally.
Awesome. Well, it's been a blast, and I think we're just getting started.